Welcome back inside the MMA War Room, the front line for MMA analysis. Alongside Chris Shroyer and Srikar Rajendran, I'm Sam Corcoran. Fellas, International Fight Week, UFC 317. This is arguably the biggest card of the year. Srikar, you are in Las Vegas for this card. How's the atmosphere there?
It's great so far. I mean, my dad actually went down to the first floor. We're staying in the Venetian right now, and he went down to the first floor. He saw some people in like UFC shirts, and like everyone's ready, man. I'm about to go to the weigh-ins pretty soon. I'm just excited, man. This is my first UFC event. Just want to soak everything up, and yeah, this is gonna be a great card for sure.
Absolutely. Well, let's not waste any more time. Jump right into the card. Usually we just do the main card, but pay-per-view fight, we're doing every single fight, quick breakdowns, and then we'll get more in depth once the main card hits. And we'll start off with the early prelims. Guys, I frankly don't have too much to say about this. You see the odds right here. A heavyweight bout between Jonathan Deniz and Alvin Hines, and then Niko Price and Jacobe Smith, two very clear favorites. I'm going to go chalk for this. Deniz by KO, Jacobe Smith by KO. Make it that simple. Chris, Srikar, what you got for these two?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go the same way. I don't really see a way that Jonathan Deniz loses. Alvin Hines isn't the best. He's unproven. He's 7-0, which is an important thing to factor in. But his last fight, he fought a very heavyweight. I know it's funny to kind of say that, but it wasn't an impressive performance. He got the guy out in the third round. He should have had it done much sooner. I think Deniz's experience and power will get Alvin Hines out of there pretty quick. I'm going to go Deniz by KO, TKO, and then Jacobe Smith. He's an up-and-coming prospect, man. He has power in his hands. I think he takes care of Niko Price. However, there have been a lot of prospects to lose their 0 this year, so I would not be utterly shocked if he did lose this, but I'm going Deniz and Jacobe Smith, both by KO, TKO.
Yeah, I'm going to go Deniz by first-round knockout. Another guy, or a guy that the UFC brought over from the regional scene just to fill in. Deniz isn't anything crazy. Like, I don't think he'll go that far at heavyweight, but he's good enough to beat Alvin Hines. He came over from Glory. He knocked out Austin Lane, beat Carl Williams, and actually dropped to Bora before he got smoked the rest of the fight. So he's got some power again. I haven't watched much of Alvin Hines, so let me know if he has a solid ground game, but if not, Deniz should roll here. Jacobe Smith is going to obliterate. Okay, well, there you go. Jacobe Smith, he's going to obliterate Niko Price in the first round. I mean, Smith might be the best prospect at 170. Like, I think he's going to be a potential top 5 guy. So well-rounded, like hands of stone. Plus, his wrestling is insane, like dating back to his college days. Niko Price is at the tail end of his career. I mean, this could be his last fight. Really tough fight for him against Morono. Temba Garimbo out-grappled him. Jacobe Smith will win however he wants to win, but I'm expecting a brutal first-round knockout and a performance of the night bonus for Jacobe Smith.
And Jacobe Smith is one of the biggest favorites. I believe actually the biggest favorite of all time.
Ever.
Yeah, ever. Which is crazy because we said that last, I think the Atlanta card, we said that about.
We were talking about Wellmaker, and then Mansour Abdulmalik was minus 800. But yeah,
he was minus 800. That's not as big as minus 2,100. So yeah, 2 early prelims, 2 very heavy favorites. It would be a shock if one of these guys lost, but we're all going chalk here.
Nothing better than straight chalk.
Yep, straight chalk. Let's move on to the prelims. And now a fight not really straight chalk. Terrence McKinney versus Viacheslav Borshchev at the lightweight. What?
Slava Claus, baby.
Yeah, Slava Claus, lightweight. Guys, a close fight here. Srikar, I'll start with you. What you have for this one to kick off the prelims?
I got Terrence McKinney by knockout in the first round. Look, I'm not saying this so I can like manifest a better event for me, but like Terrence McKinney is genuinely one of the most 50-50 fighters at lightweight. Like he either looks like a future champ or he gets put out early in the first round. But Borshchev is hittable. Tom Nolan pieced him up in February, and I think Terrence McKinney is just better and faster on the feet than Slava Claus. So McKinney gets a first round knockout, and then next fight, expect him to get knocked out and just continue the cycle.
I agree with the finish. I think Terrence McKinney will do it by submission, though. I think Slava Claus has a crazy chin. I mean, that fight with Sadikov, his last fight, 2 fights ago, I believe, was absolutely. It was when Sadikov and Slava Claus actually had a draw. It was one of the most heinous, brutal fights I've ever seen. And Borshchev, there was a 10-8 in there, and he did not fold. He did not, get knocked out. I think that's very impressive. It shows his chin, especially at such such an older age. I believe he's in his mid-30s. However, he is 8-5-1. That's not really where you want to be at that age. I'm scared that, he has no more improving to do. I think at that point in your career, you're kind of stuck in your ways. Terrence McKinney's a kill or be killed fighter, and he just goes out there and he's known for his brutal knockouts against him, sadly, but he's an exciting fighter. He always entertains the fans. I think that Slaviklaw's chin is going to be a little too much for McKinney to knock him out. He does have the raw power to do it, though, but I think his grappling will succeed Borshchev's grappling, especially because Terrence McKinney's fight against far as Ziam is not a bad grappler in his own right, but he made Ziam look absolutely stupid in that, and he's locked up the submission. I think that McKinney's gonna show why the UFC keeps holding on to him, and he will get it done by submission.
So before I make my prediction, I just want to clarify, this is a lightweight bout, but their weight is welterweight. Is this a welterweight bout?
I believe that, let me see.
Or is this a catchweight bout?
Let me see. I did not see that this morning, but it could be.
I did not see it this morning. Nonetheless, while you figure that out, I'm also going to go McKinney, and I'm going to go by submission as well. I think Slaviklaus is a very good matchup for him tactically. I do think McKinney is the better fighter here, but we talk about this inconsistency with him. This is where I think the submission comes in. I think this is such a good place for him to knock out Slaviklaus, but at the same time, you mentioned that chin. At the end of the day, I think that kind of leads to submission. I think he's going to win this fight kind of by just winning the round, not being necessarily the best fighter all the time. And then I think by the end of it, I think he will get that submission. I think it will be submission or decision in favor of McKinney, but we're all going chalk here again. A very close fight. This was kind of hard for me to
pick. There's no way this goes to a decision.
Yeah, I would actually, you know what? Now that you say that, I would love to check what the actual over-under on rounds is. And quick update, they did not miss weight. They both weighed in. I believe McKinney was 1 pound over. Slaviklaus was 155. I'm not sure why.
So it might be an error on the UFC website.
Yes, that's could be. But quickly, I think, dude, if this goes to decision, that would be actually.
I doubt it will, honestly. I think that's why I'm saying I think submission is a little more likely.
So the over-under is 1.5 rounds, and the over is plus 166. So they are heavily favoring that this is a 1-round fight.
Yeah.
But like you said, and like we've said, Slaviklaus, great chin. It's all going to come down to the grappling, in my opinion. But Terrence McKinney has power. T-Rex, baby.
Absolutely. Well, let's move on to the second fight of this prelim. It's the only women's bout on this card, I believe. Vivane Araujo versus Tracy Cortez at the flyweight division. I'll start this off. Tracy Cortez is a monster, in my opinion. I think that she's going to win this fight. I know she's coming off a loss. I have this by submission, not by submission, by decision. I like where she stands against Araujo. I think this is a very good matchup for her. And she's going to be hungry after a loss in the last fight. Up and coming. I think this is where she gets it done and gets back on track. Chris, what you got for this one?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I have Tracy Cortez by decision. I think that this is a perfect bounce back spot for her. Since entering the UFC in 2019, she's been 5-1. Then just lost to Rose she's 5-1 since 2019. She's been in the UFC since 2017, professionally fighting since 2017. She has a lot of experience, and she had a great win over Jasmine Jasudavicius, which is actually stacking up to be a better win than it was at that point in time, considering her surge and everything. But I think that, Vivane Araujo, she's a great fighter. Don't get me wrong, 13-6. She's battle tested. She's seen a lot in this division, but I mean, last fight kind of showed glimpses that she still has it. She was a huge underdog against Karine Silva, won that convincingly and dominantly. But I think Cortez, she really has all the tools to make this her fight. Araujo has great takedown defense. I believe it's sitting around 80%. She's a little older, though. She's 38. Cortez is younger. I think that, actually 80%. See, I know my stuff.
80% on the dot.
Yep. So I think that this is Cortez's fight wherever she wants to go. I wouldn't, consider going down to the ground or trying to take her down. I think Cortez should use her sharp boxing skills and her clinch game. She has very good game against the fence. I think that if she's able to, neutralize Araujo in that aspect? Because Araujo is bigger, I believe. Can you maybe go back?
We can go to the height. I believe Araujo is bigger.
Yes.
Has
okay.
Longer reach.
Okay,
Longer reach.
Yes. So that'll definitely help in grappling. But I think that Cortez, she's tough as nails, and she has very, very big quality wins on her resume. And Araujo, she's 38, but the UFC has given her so many opportunities to take that next step, and she just hasn't capitalized on it. I don't see her doing it right now against Cortez. I have Cortez by decision.
Yeah, I'll also go Cortez by decision. People forget that she actually beat Jasmine Jastovicius, and that win has aged really well. Beat her on the feet and on the ground. I know that she is kind of like a decision fighter and lacks hype in that sense, but she still is skilled. I mean, obviously the win over Jasmine, she had a nice 11-fight win streak before the loss to Rose Namajunas. Pretty good striker when it comes to throwing volume. She can push the pace on Viviane Araujo, wrestle. Araujo didn't look insane in that Silva fight, and she's still inconsistent. Meanwhile, Cortez just lost to Rose on short notice, and Rose is one of the best at flyweight. So Cortez should get it done by rather boring decision. I'll say, like, if there's any card or any fight on this card that's going to be a stinker, it's going to be this one. But I think Tracy Cortez should be able to get this one done.
Let's move on to the next fight on this card. Another clean sweep there. Hyder Amil versus Jose Miguel Delgado. Chris, you were saying before you had some thoughts on this about the undefeated Amil. What you got?
Dude, I love Hyder Amil. Hyder the Hurricane, man. He has power, and he is just relentless. I think that his fight against William Gomis, his last fight was a split decision, close win. And Srikar and I actually had a little conversation about this for the Baku matchmaking podcast. I said Muhammad Naimov could potentially fight William Gomis. William Gomis is extremely he's amazing defensively, and he was amazing. He had a great defensive performance, against Hyder Amil. But Hyder Amil's pressure and just his relentless nature of just throwing and taking, he's willing to take two to throw one, and his one is better than most people's 2-punch combo. So I think that if he gets it in close and lands, it'll be absolutely a spectacular finish. But, Jose Delgado, he is amazing too. His knockout on Contender Series was absolutely insane. And he's lengthy and likes to keep the fight at distance. He's a polished striker. I think that could give Hyder Amil problems. I think that Delgado I know Delgado has good grappling as well. He can cinch up a submission whenever he wants to. And I think that Hyder really needs to be careful of that, because he is susceptible of just charging in, and then he can get tagged. And someone who is a good grappler like William Gomis is not a very good grappler, and he had opportunities to achieve a submission victory. But I think that Hyder Amil is just going to put relentless pressure on Jose Delgado. Jose Delgado is 9-1, and his one loss was to an extremely high-paced wrestler. Hyder Amil is not a wrestler, but he brings that high-paced nature that gave Delgado problems. I think that Hyder Amil does it again. I can't put a stamp on it, knockout or decision. I'm trending towards a decision, but I think Hyder the Hurricane, he's just going to be too much, man. He's going to be a problem in this UFC. I believe that, what are they? They're lightweight. Excuse me.
It's lightweight, and it's interesting because Amil is the underdog here, undefeated.
Yes.
But I'm kind of leaning towards what you're saying, Chris. I like Hyder Amil in this fight to keep that 0 up and take down Delgado. I just think this is going to be a fight on the ground. I think it's going to be by knockout. Personally, I think, on the feet, I should say. And this will be a win by knockout. I think just that relentless fighting is going to be fantastic for Amil. It's such a close matchup, though. Like, I was very conflicted about this. I think, and I find it interesting, if you look at the odds, the over-under on rounds is 2.5, and the over is not that much of a dog to take. If I go back here,
I'll check right now.
-114 versus -145. So not that much. But I think this is set up to be a barn burner. And I think at the end of the day, it's just who is going to land the strikes and who is going to defend the strikes the best. It's going to be, you got to make sure you're in the right place at the right time. You got to see what's coming ahead. And whoever doesn't do that first is losing. And I think Hyder Amil is going to come out on top. I think he's a little better on the feet. Little more, can see ahead a little bit more. So that's why I'm going with Hyder Amil to win this fight.
Hey, first off, I'm surprised no one brought it up, but Bay Area represent, man. We love Hyder
Oh,
Amil.
yes, sir.
Shout out to San Francisco. Shout out to Bay Area. Obviously, me and Sam are from the Bay, so yeah, we love Hyder Amil over here.
We
I'm
love
gonna
that
go Hyder by
over
decision.
here.
Hey, East Coaster, be quiet. I'm kidding. I
Damn.
thought Hyder would actually. I actually thought Hyder would fight up instead of being matched with a guy like Delgado, but I mean, so be it.
I did too.
This is a tough fight. This is Delgado's second fight in the UFC, and you get Hyder Amil. Like Hyder is just such an in-your-face fighter. He can push a pace on you. He can piece you up. He just did it to William Gomis, and he's just better than Delgado. Like Delgado's definitely skilled on the feet, and he could clip Hyder. Like that's definitely a possibility.
He's very
but
polished. He's very polished.
again, it's his second UFC fight, and you're going against Hyder Amil, who I view as a potential top 15 guy.
Yeah.
This should be a fun scrap, maybe a potential fight of the night, but Hyder is just more proven to me, so I'll go with Hyder by decision. Again, Bay Area represent, man.
Yes, sir. We're all taking the dog. This is the first time I believe that's happened on this podcast, where it's everyone taking the underdog. Let's see if
Well,
we
because
take
I
the
don't know why
underdog.
Hyder's a dog here.
Yeah,
I
I
don't-
mean, it actually makes me a little scared. But
Well,
I think it's just the lengthiness of Delgado. He's definitely he's definitely bigger. He's 2 inches taller, 3-inch reach. And if Hyder isn't able to get inside, I think that's going to cause a lot of problems for him. But he's relentless. It's like I said, he's willing to take 2 to throw 1, and that 1 is powerful.
like I said, it's going to be like whoever can land that first shot and just make sure they take advantage of landing that first shot. That's going to win. I think it's going to be a very close fight. And I think people are also giving Delgado credit for the loss, which is against a wrestler. So people think he might be undefeated if he was only facing strikers. So
Yeah, but
I understand it.
He got 30-27 in that loss. So
I know, which was bad.
Didn't
So
make a lot of improvements. So we'll see. But
we'll
let's go
see.
Hyder.
But, yeah, well, the last fight on this prelim card, Jack Hermanson versus Gregory Rodriguez, RoboCop. Dog in this one is Rodriguez, or Hermanson, excuse me. Srikar, are we sticking to the dogs or are we going the favorite? What you got here?
So here's the issue. And here's my thing with this fight. I looked back at Jack Hermanson's record, and Rodriguez is the exact kind of fighter Hermanson tends to struggle with. Like Cannonier flatlined him. Delidze crushed him on the ground. I mean, even Joe Pyfer gave him a lot of trouble early on in their fight. When Hermanson gets overwhelmed on the physical front, things will fall apart for him, and they'll fall apart fast. And that's a real concern here because RoboCop can match or beat Hermanson on the ground, and on the feet, he hits a lot harder and he hits a lot cleaner. So he's patient when he needs to be. I think he can manage his gas tank over 3 rounds. It's not a 5-rounder like the Cannonier fight. And I don't think Hermanson is going to be able to drag this into deep waters like everyone says he will. Like, I just don't think it's going to happen against a guy like RoboCop. He's not going to be fazed by it. And you factor in Hermanson's age, the long layoffs he's had in between fights. He's not been an active fighter in the slightest. I don't see this going well for him. So I'm gonna go RoboCop by decision. I think this does go the distance. I could see a TKO in round 3 potentially, maybe a late finish. But RoboCop, he's too strong, he's too sharp, and I mean he's going to be so dialed in after that Cannonier loss. I think RoboCop takes it.
Yeah, I agree. I actually can see RoboCop finishing Jack Hermanson. It's just the inactivity is just a little too much. And, his last fight against Joe Pyfer, he was a huge dog. I think he's the same size dog as he is now. He's plus 210.
His last fight was over a year ago for what it's worth.
Yes, and he was plus 210 against Joe Pyfer, rising prospect. And we've had our conversations about Joe Pyfer, about whether he's ready to, make that step. And Hermanson's a grizzled vet. Like he is someone that if you beat, that's a good notch on your belt. No matter how inactive he is. He's 24-8. He's a big guy, 6'1". But I just think that inactivity is a little too much for me. And also it's actually kind of funny because I saw something on Instagram, and this should have no reason to. This shouldn't be a reason to go against Hermanson. But in his last, what was it? I think it was his last 9 fights. He's alternated wins and losses. Perfectly.
He has, yes. Win, loss, win, loss. Win, loss. Win,
I am
loss,
a believer in trends. I can't say that that's the sole reason that I'm picking that.
Do you remember when you did this with Petrosky?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. Didn't work. But, you win some, you lose some. I'm in the war room. So I think that, I don't know. I regardless of the trends, I just think that RoboCop is an extremely tough opponent to come back from a year layoff and fight. He has so much power in his hands. I actually thought he was going to beat Cannonier, but Cannonier surged back up to the top, showed that he still has it, silenced the haters. But I think RoboCop he's just tough as nails. I think the only way that Hermansson really finds a victory is to take him down and hold him there. And he could do that. RoboCop's not the best on the ground. He has great takedown defense, though.
Yeah,
but
I was going to say 88% takedown defense, though, is tough.
Yes, that is tough. But when you look at the people shooting takedowns against him, it's not necessary. It kind of bolsters his statistics. But I think Hermansson is just, it's going to be too much for him. I think this is a very tough spot to put him in his first fight back. He deserves this fight, no doubt. He's one of the best fighters in the UFC still. But I think that it's just going to be a little too much. I really don't see a path to victory for him. But hey, maybe he could put together a little winning streak and reclaim his spot in the top, top 10, I believe. I don't think he's not top 10. He's not
it's top 15.
Yes, it'd be top 15. But
yes,
it would be more than the top 10 at one point. So could be back there.
Could be back. I believe RoboCop, he's no longer ranked, is he?
No, I don't think so. Not after.
He was never ranked to begin with.
Yeah, nonetheless, I think RoboCop will also win this fight by decision. And Chris, like you said, it's just the inactivity, the matchup. I think you also said it perfectly. The best way to take it to for Hermansson is to take it to the ground, and I just don't see that happening with Gregory Rodriguez. I think it's going to be one on the feet. It'll go to decision. I think this fight will probably be one of the more boring fights of the night, if I'm being completely honest. Like two good guys. It's two good guys fighting, but I just like it's one that's just like I'm like the win is just gonna be like, oh, he won. I'm not surprised, and the way he did
You're
it.
telling me Violent Obama's gonna have a boring fight? Come on.
For the sake of all UFC fans, I hope this is not fight of the night.
Oh yeah, me too. But I mean,
I think there are a lot. I mean, this is arguably the most stacked card of the year with how many fights they have, and the fighters on it. So there are so many other fights that could be fight of the night.
Quick note, I mean, we were going to get another fight, two undefeated prospects, Jackson McVeigh and Chris Ewart.
One got cut from the UFC today.
They put Ewart was in a kind of a tough position, so he weighed in 10 pounds overweight, which is that's a lot. I think, on 4 days notice, it's kind of a little more acceptable, and you kind of give him a little bit of leeway. But Ewart was put in a tough position because he's supposed to fight on Contender Series this fall, and due to Cedric Dumas's whole escapade that he's having right now, they asked Ewart, do you want the fight? Obviously, he said yes. Tough position for him to be in. They added him to the roster, and then right after he missed weight, I think they cut him because he's just going to go back to Contender Series.
He'll go back to Contender Series.
Exactly. So
it's a terrible look on paper that he gets on the roster, then cuts, but he's going to have his chance to be back. Yeah.
But for the people
especially taking that fight on short notice helps him out with the brownie points among Dana.
Yeah, for the people in the know, I have some high expectations for Ewart, but I also have high expectations for Jackson McVeigh. That guy he's legit. I think he's going to be legit. I had him beating Cedric.
I don't blame you for that. I also
we'll never know.
I guess we'll never know.
Maybe they never know. Like the Tootsie Pop owl.
Absolutely. Well, let's move on to the main card, the one that's everyone's been talking about. And we start with a very good fight. Peyton Talbot looking to bounce back, 9-1. He lost to Barcelos against Felipe Lima, 14-1. Another Brazilian fighter for Talbot. I'll start this one off. This one, I was thinking about it, and I kind of thought Talbot would win. I think this is going to be a good bounce back for him. But the more I think about it, the more I think Lima is just such a worse and worse match for him. I got Felipe Lima winning this one by submission. Personally, I'm comparing Talbot to that Barcelos fight. Felipe Lima is way faster than Barcelos. And I think that's going to be the downfall for Talbot, where Talbot just looked completely outclassed by Barcelos, who, by the way, that loss is looking. You can never say a loss is looking better and better, but Barcelos, after his most recent win, it's looking a little bit better, like a little more fair.
Yep.
So I personally think that Lima, I think Lima, just like this submission right here, going to be super fast. I don't think it's going to be like, I don't think he's going to absolutely like destroy him, but I think Talbot will put up more of a fight this time around. He'll learn his mistakes. But I just think Lima's going to have this fight at the end of the day. I have him winning by submission, just a faster paced fighter. That Talbot, I just don't necessarily know if he's ready for. I wouldn't say fraud check just yet. 2 straight losses is not great, but Talbot's going to have to go back and fight a little more down and figure out what's next for him after this.
It'll be interesting. Should I take it away, Srikar? You want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, I think that Raoni Barcelos fight, like you mentioned, Sam, was very telling of where Talbot is in his MMA career. Great fighter, great prospect. I think that he has a lot of time to patch up those holes that we're talking about. But Felipe Lima is just, he is on one of the hottest streaks I've ever seen. He has 14 straight wins. He only lost his first career MMA fight and rattled off 14 pro wins. He's like
on the Islam Makhachev run.
Yeah, it's extremely impressive. I think that the one thing Talbot has going for him in this fight is the size advantage. If you look at it right there on the screen, he's 5'10" versus 5'6". Not crazy 4 inches, but the reach disadvantage for Lima is not as great as the height disadvantage. I think that Talbot, I personally, when he was coming into the UFC on Contender Series and everything, huge fan of him. Still, I'm a big fan. He has a lot of raw potential, but when you start getting deeper and deeper into your UFC career, MMA career, you kind of want to see a fighter like that. You know, every time he goes out there, you want to see something new or an improvement that he worked on, and you want to see them kind of harp on that improvement, really show people, look, this is what I've been working on, and this is how I'm going to put my entire game together. That last fight, Talbot didn't do that. He kind of just conceded to every grappling exchange that Barcelos threw at him. It was almost just like Barcelos would go for a takedown, go for the clinch, and then next thing you know, Talbot was on the floor, and he wasn't even trying. I can't say he wasn't trying. Obviously, he was trying, but Barcelos made it look really easy. And Felipe Lima is way better than Raoni Barcelos. No disrespect to Raoni Barcelos. In terms of grappling and what he brings to the table, Lima is a dog. He's a high-pressure fighter. He's almost like a grappling Hyder Amil. He just is in your face. He's going to get the clinch. He's going to work the dirty boxing. And he's really going to he's going to take the fight wherever he wants to take the fight. That win over Naimov was extremely impressive for me. I know Naimov isn't like a top prospect, and some people would think Talbot is actually a better prospect than Naimov. Naimov just having a great win over Bogdan Grad. But I mean, I think that this is Lima's fight. If wherever he wants to go with this, he can strike with Talbot. Talbot's more powerful, I'll give him that. But I think Lima's sharper. I think he's more technical in what he throws and more calculated. Talbot just kind of has raw power, and he's just going to kind of just throw stuff into the wind and see if it comes back or not. I think that Lima will get this to the ground, and once it's on the ground, it's over. It's over. Lima by submission. I think it'll be later in the fight. I think you're right, Sam. Talbot's going to put up more of a fight, but I see Lima continuing his 14-fight win streak, making it 15, and continuing to be undefeated in the UFC.
Honestly, this feels like one of those fights for Peyton Talbot where it's like, yeah, he's in the right place. And yeah, this fight is not like egregious. Like, he definitely deserves the fight. But it's the wrong time. Like, I just don't think he's ready for what a fight with Felipe Lima would bring. Like, he's still a huge talent. Maybe even future champ material. Like, I haven't given up on Peyton Talbot for one. But right now, Lima's just more polished everywhere that matters, especially in the areas where Talbot still needs to grow. Like on the feet, you guys all said it. Like, Lima pushes the pace. He messes with your timing. He stays defensively sharp. And on the ground, he can probably neutralize Talbot's size and his athleticism. He's just more complete at this stage. So I'll keep it short. It's a great learning opportunity for Talbot, and I think there's a lot that he's going to take away from this fight. But I think the pick here for me is obvious, and it's Felipe Lima by unanimous decision. I don't think Talbot's going to get finished, but it's just one. I wouldn't really say a nightmare matchup because again, I do think he deserved to fight like this, but it's he's not ready. He's just not ready for it.
I completely agree. I think it's just it's someone that he needs to fight down a little bit more. And this fight, I think Talbot's in a good position if he loses still. You had Barcelos, a slower fighter. You had Lima, a faster fighter. Now you put those 2 and 2 together after your losses. You figure out what's next. You learn from those mistakes, so you can just boost up from that.
It just doesn't. Yeah, Srikar, you're right, man. It just doesn't add up to me why this is the fight for Peyton Talbot.
No, I get it. I get it, but like, I get it, and they're trying to push Talbot up, but they're doing it in an artificial way. Like, I feel like he's fine. Like, he's not going to be out of his depth in this fight, but it's going to be the same as the Barcelos fight, is what I'm saying. Like, it's going to be the exact same.
Right. Yeah, and like Sam said, Felipe Lima is much faster than Raoni Barcelos, but there's one wild card. What if Peyton Talbot has Frank Ocean in his corner?
That would be ridiculous. But let's move on. This is where I think we're going to start to decipher on fights, guys. It's been all chalk so far. It's been all the same. Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano, Money Moicano. After getting the championship fight, which we thought was going to be against Dariush, now we get that Dariush matchup. It's a matchup that I was excited for at the time in January. It's a matchup that I'm excited for now. Srikar, I'll start with you. What you got?
Man, this is a grappler's delight, man. If you love grappling, then oh boy, this is gonna be a firefight. Like, because both guys, they want it on the ground.
Yep.
But that's where Moicano might have the edge, because Dariush could try and keep it standing, and he'll just look to catch Moicano overextending. But that's a really risky game considering how hittable he's become. So one like mistimed exchange and Moicano could literally just body lock him, and then deep waters just right after that. So it's a little bit of a risky game on the feet. And once it hits the mat, I think Moicano just feels like the sharper fighter right now. Like he's more precise with his control. I think he's more dangerous with his ground and pound. And he's better at just capitalizing on those tiny little openings that separate a good grappler from someone that can finish fights on the ground. You know what I mean? Like, Dariush is good enough to survive and like maybe even win moments in those scrambles or exchanges, but I think over the course of 3 rounds, it's hard to pick against Moicano here. So I'm gonna go Renato Moicano by TKO by way of ground and pound.
Wow.
I think he's just got more left in the tank, and again, he's coming into his prime while Dariush might be on his way out. So momentum wise, all things considered, I think Moicano is gonna get it done by finish.
I definitely agree. It's sad to say I love Benny Dariush. That Drikkar close fight, that knockout, one of my favorite knockouts of all time. But sadly, this might be the beginning of the end for Benny. Not even the beginning of the end. It's kind of the middle of the end, because the beginning of the end started with that Charles Oliveira TKO in the first round, and then followed up by the Arman Tsarukyan brutal knockout. And, you know, it's another thing. It's almost like Hermansson. Obviously, Dariush is way more active than Hermansson, not the same scenario, but Dariush hasn't fought since 2023. That like, even though it's December 2023, it's a year and a half, give or take.
It was supposed to be a year for him, and then Moicano got called up to fight for the belt.
Yes, but I mean, I would have loved to see Dariush take another fight in kind of like to replace that Moicano fight, but that was a very tricky situation because of Tsarukyan pulling out very soon before the fight,
like on the day of the event.
Yes, that was very unfortunate for kind of everyone involved. But you know, Dariush, he's a great striker, man. If it stays standing, I think he will have the advantage. I think Moicano has the speed, but in terms of technicality and skill and just being precise, Dariush is still that guy. I don't want to discredit him from that, but not Dariush, excuse me. Moicano has just been unreal recently. Like, I don't even count that Islam fight as a loss. Obviously, you got to count it on the record, the record books, but look,
we don't hold it against him.
Yes, I am not holding that against him whatsoever, man. And the fact that he even took that, knowing that that was probably going to happen, made me have even more respect than I already had for Money Moicano. Like just his past 5 fights, not counting that, well, counting the Islam fight. He lost to Islam, knocked out Benoit Saint Denis, knocked out Jalen Turner after literally losing the first round, almost getting knocked out. Jalen Turner didn't finish it. Moicano made him pay. Beat Drew Dober, beat Brad Riddell. He's only really lost to the best. Like when you look at his record, this is who
Moicano has Aldo,
Dos Anjos, one of the best. One of the best.
Even RDA was on 4 days' notice.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. RDA is one of the best UFC fighters of all time. Korean Zombie, Fiziev, Aldo, Ortega. Like his record, his resume is absolutely stacked and insane. And, Dariush just being a little bit older and, suffering those 2 brutal knockouts recently, it really makes me want to take Moicano, but I'm taking Moicano I'm taking him by finish too, Srikar. I don't think this is going to decision. I'm taking Moicano because I think that he's in a great spot in his career right now. He's really making a name for himself. He is the Show Me the Money podcast, everything. He has everything going for him right now. And I really think that this will be another great name to put on his resume, and it'll be in the win column, not the loss column.
I'll put this out just for Show Me the Money to maybe come back to in the future. But hey, Show Me the Money podcast. If you ever want to ollaborate with War Room, we're open.
Sir.
Our line is open.
Sir.
Hit us up. Hopefully sometime in the future we'll get it done. I don't know how far in the future it'll be, but we will do a podcast with Money Moicano.
I would recommend, love Show Me the Money podcast. I would recommend they stop watching from here on out because I'm going to go with Benny Dariush win this fight.
Oh, no.
I teased it earlier. That we might have some differentiations on this fight. And let me give you my explanation. My heart is saying, take Moicano, take Moicano, take Moicano.
Mm-hmm.
My gut is telling me to go Dariush. I think you guys have talked about the striking. I think he's a better striker. The ground and pound, the TKO, I don't necessarily see that happen. I think Dariush can get out of that. He's not fighting an Oliveira or a Sarukian. It's Renato Moicano, who has lost to some of the best fighters in this division, but he's not at the top of the game yet. I actually think this is a very favorable matchup for Dariush when it comes to the striking. The grappling's a different story, and it's a lot closer. You mentioned that Moicano is a little more precise with it. I just think in general, when it comes to just straight up grappling, who can get the person on the ground more, who can keep them on the ground more, I think it's Dariush. And that's why I have Dariush by decision in this fight. And I'll put a label to it, split decision. I think it's going to be so close. But at the end of the day, I think what's going to happen is Dariush is going to, I think Dariush would take the first round. Maybe even the second and third, I'm conflicted on which one he'd take, but I think Dariush would take the first round, probably have momentum going to the second, and then Moicano might flip it. But by then, Dariush is going to have already enough done to take this fight and win by split decision. It is such a close fight, though. Like, you could literally flip a coin, and you could pick a winner. I'm not surprised by that at all. But
I would agree with you if this was 3 years ago.
And that's completely fair because Dariush is 36. Moicano's up and coming. Moicano just has so much more going for him.
They're both the same age. They're both the same age.
He just has a lot more going for him. We'll put it that way. I didn't even realize that. But
Dariush is 15 days older than Moicano.
That's awesome.
Moicano has made it a point to bring that up in the press conferences and everything too.
When's their birthday?
He's 15 days older.
When's their birthday so we can celebrate?
I have no idea.
I mean, here's the thing. Dariush, let me phrase it better. Dariush is kind of on the way down. Moicano's kind of on the way up.
I agree.
Dariush kind of needs this fight to stay alive because, I mean, let's be real. One fights like he's 36 and the other one doesn't. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like Alex Pereira versus some old washed up heavyweight, but the washed up heavyweight.
Nah, don't do Benny like that. You just picked him to win.
Nah, yeah.
I don't know. I think Dariush is going to win.
I do agree.
I agree. It's just those knockout losses and then the time off is just that might be a little too much for me. But hey, if he channels what he did in the Gamrot fight, no telling what could happen. And then it's his fight. If he fights like he fought against Gamrot, that's his fight. But
I wouldn't be surprised also. Like, I have Dariush winning this fight. I would not be surprised if Moicano absolutely ragdolls him.
I hope not, for Benny's sake.
It could happen. And like it's that close. Like, it really could go either way. I just think on paper, I'm being a little more technical with this. Like, usually I love picking from the heart. But I was like, let's just be a little more technical than this. Take a step back, do more research on this. And I think Dariush, at the end of the day, I think my gut is telling me go Dariush for this one.
Hey.
But let's move on.
It's a coin flip for a reason.
Exactly. Well, let's move on to another fight that's also a coin flip. Joshua Van on short notice, one of our favorite fighters. The Fearless, taking on the #1 contender, where Dana White said the winner of this fight's getting a title shot. So this is a major fight. Chris, I'll start with you. What do you have for this one?
This is like one of the most conflicting fights for me because I love both of them so much. Brandon Raw Dog Royval, I love him so much, man. He is such a fun fighter to watch. His fight against Pantoja was awesome, in my opinion. Could have been boring to some people. I think that he really showed a lot, and he's just willing to scrap. He's a great boxer. Not amazing in the grappling realm, but he really never needs to take it there. Pantoja took it there against him, and I think that's what gave him the nod. But this is just going to be two strikers going at it. If this hits the mat, I will be extremely surprised. I really do not see this hitting the mat unless someone gets rocked and they're like, oh my God, I got to shoot a scramble takedown. Which, happens a lot. Smart move too, if that happens to you as a fighter. But right now, in my opinion, this is Josh Van's time. This has been a culmination of being the most active fighter in the UFC, winning all your fights except his Charles Johnson fight, which he got knocked out in, which, that's a whole another story. This is Josh Van's time. I think this is the perfect fighter against Royval to test him. I really think that it's just going to be a boxing masterclass. We're going to see a war. I think this is going to be fight of the night, in my opinion. I really think
I completely agree with that.
And I think this is definitely a performance bonus waiting to happen for both or whoever wins. But Josh Van coming off a great win against Bruno Silva. Brandon Royval, his last fight was, oh my God, I'm blanking. Who was his last fight? He lost to
Tyra.
Oh, Tyra. He beat Tyra. He's coming off 2 split decisions. He beat Moreno. Awesome. That was a great fight and a great win to put on your belt. And he's been active too. He's fighting like twice a year. Which for someone of his caliber,
caught pulled out both times. So
yes, that is true. But for someone of his caliber in the top 5, the fact that he's that active, fighting twice a year, being at the top, going for the title shot, very impressive to me, and it's something that I really commend. But this is Josh Van's time. He's too polished of a striker. He's an absolute warrior. He has power like no other, and he is just so scary for a flyweight, man. He's 5'7". Or no, 5. Well, it says he's 5'5" there, but he said he was 5'7" in Nina Drama's interview with him. So I don't know if he's lying. I don't know.
You might be.
I don't
love
Nina
lying
Drama,
about their heights, though.
Okay, yeah, nah. Damn, Srikar's going no love.
Nah, it's always love. But
it's always love.
But this fight, man.
Yeah.
I mean, this fight is a real test. And not just of how skilled Joshua Van truly is, but I think it's a test of his whole approach to this sport. He's taking on one of the best in the division and doing it on a schedule that would burn out most fighters, not even within flyweight, like within any division, But I don't think Van is most fighters. Like, we've seen him take quick turnarounds and thrive. And stylistically, I think this actually might be the best matchup he's had yet. Personally, Royval has always struggled with guys who can match his pace, but do it in a technical manner. The only one he's really faced like that was Brandon Moreno. And now here comes Van. Probably the cleanest, most precise striker that Royval has seen since Moreno. And I do disagree, Chris. I think Royval's ground game is actually really dangerous and slept on.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I'll get to my prediction later, but if this fight does go to the ground, Royval will win. and easily
But
win.
But if he can't get it to the ground, and let's be real, four strong grapplers couldn't, then it's going to be a long night for Royval. I mean, bottom line, I think Van's pace, his cardio over a 3-round fight, his boxing, which is so crisp. I think all of those things are going to carry him here. And I mean, this might not even just be a win. I think this might be the kind of performance that makes everyone, realize how real this guy is. Like, Joshua Van is an absolute monster. And I think he takes a unanimous decision win.
Yeah, I also have Van, but oh my God. I'm not gonna lie. Coming in this podcast, I had Royval. I've been debating back and forth the entire time. And Van will win this fight. I think he's a better matchup for I think Royval is not a great matchup. Royval is a great matchup for Van. We'll put it, yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, Junior.
Yeah, it's going to be, I have Van by TKO. I mean, he is just breezing through guys. Like, I don't see how anyone can stop him. But here's how I think Royval could potentially stop him. First of all, there's being active and there's being too active. And I think Josh Van is crossed the line of being too active to a point where it could hurt him in this fight. Will it? I don't think so. I think he's going to win this fight. But at the end of the day, like, here's the, like, he's been smoking his opponents. That's the one thing going for him. His last fight against Da Silva, he absolutely smoked him. Just breezed straight through him. He did not need to recover too much from that fight. That's the thing. Against Royval, though, I mean, it's a lot tougher. And I think he still will win by TKO. I think it's going to be a lot tougher. If it doesn't go TKO, he'll win by decision. If this fight goes to the ground, however, this is Royval's fight to lose. And I want to point out that I believe Royval has had he's had most of his fights win by submission.
Yes, but when you look at the people he subbed, though, it makes sense. He's not.
It does make sense, and that's the reason I picked.
But he was able to scramble with Tatsuro Taira pretty well. Like, I don't think he was out of his depth on the ground.
But Josh Van has 80% takedown defense, and Royval has a 75% takedown percentage accuracy. Excuse me.
Yes.
So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I just think Royval has to win this fight on the ground. Josh Van is so good. I don't necessarily think he'll get to the ground that much. And that's why I have Josh Van, who's going to keep this fight on his feet, in my opinion, and take it. Guys, we have a future champion right in front of our eyes in Josh Van.
I think so.
I have a
quick question for you, Sam.
Is
being too active a problem if you don't take damage?
It's not. That's why I said he's towing the line of it. Probably cross the line of it because he's not taking too much damage. Then it doesn't matter too much. That's when you can be quote unquote too active. But you look at a guy like I'm trying to think of a good example. Yuri Prohaska.
I would say Kevin Holland, but
Kevin Holland too. But Yuri's the one that comes to mind after losing to Pereira at 295. He gets a great win over Rakic at UFC 300, and then 2 months later comes back when he took some damage in that Rakic fight. I know he won, but he took some damage in that fight. Yeah. And that 2-month comeback, that just felt too active. And Yuri's not a guy that fights.
All of the damage that Yuri took in that fight was to the legs, and Pereira really just kind of bodied his head. So it's like,
that is true.
It doesn't line up, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Point being, it does affect people if they're too active. There's some people who just like to be active. Kevin Holland. That's why I didn't bring up Kevin Holland, because he just likes to be active, like win or lose. He just wants to keep fighting, and he does not care about whether or not he's getting a championship fight. He just kind of wants to keep fighting, keep winning. Yeah. But Yuri Prohaska, when you're a top contender like that, that's kind of why I brought his name up. There's probably a better example out there. But even the guy,
weird because he fought. I mean, like, dude, he lost to Pereira. It's not like he was losing to someone like he should.
Here's another guy, and this guy didn't want to be too active, but ended up his cards were forced to him. Aljamain Sterling, just bumping up to Sean O'Malley, and he lost that fight. Hasn't got the belt back since. So that's one issue to just keep an eye on. I think it could affect Van, but I think if he's taking no damage, like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You just had a training camp. Why not do it again? Just stay in good shape. Clearly, this guy's got burnt out. At least he showed that to us. Yeah. And I think that's the reason he beats Brandon Royval. And he'll take on Pantoja next if he wins. Or Will he take on Kai Kara France for the championship belt? Let's talk about that. First championship belt of the night for the flyweight division. Pantoja versus Kai Kara France. I'll get this started off. Pantoja, this is where the UFC pound for pound rankings, it always just baffles me how Pantoja is so low on these rankings. He is one of the best champions in the UFC right now. I don't see anyone that can stop him other than maybe Josh Fan. I have Pantoja winning this. It'll go the distance this time, and it's going to be a clear-cut unanimous decision. He's already beat Kai Kara France once. I know Kai Kara France is good. Don't take me wrong with that. Mm-hmm. But Pantoja is just a different animal, man. I just think, he keeps breezing through the opponents. You had, Royval, he beat. Or Steve Ursay should not have got that title shot. Smoked him.
Nah. I was just about to say, Steve Ursay actually gave him his toughest fight.
He did.
He lost the fight. He lost the fight because he let himself get taken down in that back half of the 5th round.
Yeah, and Pantoja absolutely dominated him in that back half. That's what I'm saying by that. But absolutely dominated Kai Asakura. I don't necessarily know if it's going to be as dominant of a win here because Kai Kara France is a really good fighter. But I cannot see him winning. And I think Pantoja keeps that reign going. And hopefully, just hopefully, people put some more respect on his name.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I think the deeper the fight goes, obviously plays right into Pantoja's game. He is just a cardio maniac, and his technique does not fade the deeper the fight goes, which is something that I think is really important for him. He's a world-class grappler, amazing at BJJ, and he's a solid
probably
striker
one of the best BJJs in the promotion.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
and
easily top 3.
He's a solid striker too. Like I'm not gonna say he's the best, but he has hands. He puts on pressure. He's a pressure fighter. And the thing is, I think that kind of plays into Kai's game, the pressure and making it almost a scramble. Once in the Ultimate Fighter fight, I've watched that fight so many times. I actually remember when that fight first happened, and I love these Ultimate Fighter fights and like these Contender Series fights that have happened, and you see them fight again, like Moreno and Pantoja. We saw them fight on Ultimate Fighter, seeing them fight for the championship. It's awesome to see, because also they're in such different places in their career than they were 10 years ago.
Yes,
but Kai is still a very tough opponent to put out. Like you said, I think that Pantoja's best path to victory, bum rush him, put him on the fence, grab a single leg or a double leg, take him down, hold him there. Your fight to win, or your fight to lose, excuse me. But I think Kai, he's just so good at catching people right when you think that they're about to, get it done. And his past few fights, I believe. Sorry, I'm looking. My ESPN is not loading. Shout out ESPN. We love ESPN now. But Kai Kara France, his past few fights, split decision loss to Albazi, which was, I arguably could have had that for Kai. It was a coin flip for me. Like, I'm not mad either way. The judges scored it. It was a tough fight. But he knocked out Ursay absolutely clean out. And Ursay put together a very good fight against Pantoja. Now, MMA math doesn't always math when you want it to. But if you look at that and you say, all right, well, Kai knocked out Steve Ursay instantly. Not instantly. It was a whole first round. And Ursay arguably almost beat Pantoja. How does that look for Kai? How is that stacking up for him? Because he's a finisher. I believe he has the most first round knockouts it might be in flyweight, or he's top of the line in first round knockouts in UFC history.
Yes.
He's just a flat out finisher. And if he catches Pantoja, I really think that Pantoja's lights can go out, but I think the cardio is going to play into this, man. I really think that he's going to take this into deep waters. He's going to show that there's really levels to this game, and he's going to successfully defend his title for a fourth time, excuse me.
Yeah, man. Pantoja, he's just built different, bro. Like, the dude might be the scariest flyweight on the planet right now. Every time he steps in there, Easily. It just feels like you're watching someone who's just refusing to give anyone a safe moment. You know, he's aggressive, but he's smart about it. He picks his shots. He doesn't waste energy. And when it hits the mat, I mean, just forget about it. He might have the best back control in the division. And once he's there, like it's almost always a wrap.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with Kai Kara-France, let's give him his due, man. Like you mentioned it. He's coming off a vicious knockout, and he's finally getting that undisputed title shot.
Yep.
Crisp technical striker, great footwork, good guard game. When he lets those hands go, he's got legit power for a flyweight, man. He's not really known for his grappling, but I will say his takedown defense is elite. Like Aldo levels of elite. Like he's really good with takedown defense, and it's really hard to get him to the ground.
Him being 5'4" definitely helps. He's a low center of gravity.
88% takedown defense.
Yeah, you can keep a low base. But here's the thing, and this is where the grappling kind of comes into play. Pantoja doesn't need a clean double leg to take you down. Like, he's crafty. He finds other ways. I watched back that Kai Asakura fight, second round. He never even took down Asakura. He literally just jumped on his back.
Yep.
Like it was nothing.
All he needs to do
was able to latch up a rear naked. Yeah, and I mean, he can latch onto your back in scrambles or just off the clinch, and you know, once that happens, you're in deep water. It led to Kai Asakura getting literally choked out to the point he was asleep. So for KKF to win this, he's got to stay calm under that Pantoja pressure, because it's going to be nonstop. You know, he needs to manage the range, stay off the cage, man. Stay off the cage.
Yeah.
Just look for that perfect counter, because if he lets Pantoja dictate the pace of this fight, he is going to get absolutely mauled. Like, he's going to get overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he stretches Pantoja into deep waters and flips the cardio script, but I mean, that's just a big ask.
Yeah.
I think, bottom line, Pantoja's just too dangerous everywhere. He can finish standing. He can finish on the ground. Even when he gets tired, he somehow keeps pushing that insane pace. Unless KKF literally catches lightning in a bottle, like, this is Pantoja's fight to lose.
He could. And
he could. So I'll go even bolder. I'll say Pantoja wins this one by submission. I think he finds a way.
Yeah.
He'll find some crafty way to take Kai Kara-France's back, and he'll either lock up an RNC, he may lock up a DAR. I don't know what he's going to do. Maybe he gets a front choke. I don't know. I think he's going to find a submission in this fight.
And that's going to
boost
him. That hopefully will boost him up in the pound-for-pound rankings. Taking down a guy by submission against a guy that doesn't usually go down to the ground too much. That would be massive. But let's wrap it up. The final fight, the main event, lightweight bout between Ilia Topuria and Charles Oliveira for the belt. Guys, this is one of the most hyped up fights I've seen as a UFC fan. The undefeated Ilia Topuria moving up to take on one of the greatest lightweights of all time. Mm-hmm. Srikar, you came to Vegas for this reason. You wanted to see this fight. Why don't you tell me why and who you got?
God, I love this card, man. Like, I'm so grateful, man. I'm so happy I get to see this tomorrow. This one's a banger. We've got Ilia Topuria, the undefeated phenom, taking on Charles Oliveira, the finishing machine of the lightweight division. And honestly, I actually think this matchup is a really beautiful stylistic clash. Let's start with Topuria. On a technical level, he might be one of the most polished fighters in the game right now. I mean, razor sharp boxing, clean combos, really excellent timing, a real understanding of range and where he's working from. But he's not just a boxer, man. Like, his kicks, especially his body kicks, his leg kicks, it just adds another layer. And when the fight hits the mat or he's in the clinch, like, he's not a fish out of water. In fact, people really sleep on how good this guy's grappling is. Like, he might not be the biggest or the fastest guy at 155, but I think if any fighter just embodies pure technique, it's Ilia Topuria. And then there's Charles Oliveira, who's just like Mr. Chaos, man. Like, he is a chaotic fighter, and he thrives in those situations. You never really know what you're going to get, but you do know it's going to be dangerous. He's a threat everywhere. His striking is aggressive and a bit unorthodox, but I mean, that's part of what makes it so effective. And on the ground, we're talking about one of the most dangerous submission artists that the UFC has ever seen. You make one mistake and he's going to wrap you up. So again, stylistically, it's fascinating. Charles definitely has the edge on the ground with his submission game, while Topuria has the edge on the feet in terms of just crisp, clean technique and knockout power. But they're both so well-rounded that I didn't look at this fight and I was like, oh yeah, it's just striker versus grappler. Because both of them can do it all. I think that's the most far-sighted thing about this fight. Both guys are so well-rounded. But here's the thing. Topuria has like some real tools to beat Oliveira. He can dictate the pace. He can stuff or escape from bottom. He has the power to hurt Charles, man. And Oliveira's chin, how do I put this? Well, it's been tested a lot. He gets dropped in nearly every fight. Topuria is not a guy you want to get dropped against. So yeah, it's not a blowout on paper as everyone wants to make it, but if you're asking for a pick, give me Ilia Topuria by first round knockout. I think he's going to put him away.
Round one. Oh my God.
Matador.
That is ridiculous.
He's going to once again, he is going to do everything he said he was going to do. He is going to finish him in the first round. And man, if he does that, you've got a star. You have got a combat sports star. I mean, absolutely.
Oh yeah. And they already have, I would already call Ilia Topuria a superstar in the UFC. I do want to point out this money line, though. I think it's a little unfair in favor of Topuria. I think this will be closer than people think. And I think to preface this, I have Ilia by KO as well. But I want to say, I think up until the knockout happens, probably I think it will be over 1.5 rounds. Probably looking at a round 2, round 3 knockout, in my opinion. I think it's going to be a close fight up until then. It could be 1-1 headed into the third, and then Ilia just finishes him. But like you said, Srikar, Charles's chin, it's been tested before, and Topuria is the last guy you want testing your chin in the UFC. And that's why I have Topuria winning. I will also say for Oliveira, I have not been that impressed with his recent fights. The Armand fight, he lost. I know that was split decision. Armand's one of the best fighters in lightweight. And the Chandler fight, I know it was unanimous decision, but that win just keeps getting worse and worse with just how Chandler has looked. Again, I mean, he looked against Paddy Pimblett, he looked horrible, to put it simply. I know it's only one fight. But frankly, I mean, and there was also times in that fight where I thought Chandler could have finished Charles Oliveira and won that fight. I just don't think he hasn't impressed me enough. Is he deserving of this title shot? Yes. He's one of the greatest lightweights ever. Would I prefer someone like Arman Tsarukyan? Yeah, I understand the UFC is not very happy with him right now, so I get it. At the end of the day, though, I think Topuria, it's such a good matchup, but the Topuria has that. If Charles Oliveira makes one mistake, Topuria is going to capitalize on it and smoke him. Whereas if it's the other way around, if Topuria makes a mistake, Charles Oliveira will capitalize on it, but Topuria can get out of it, in my opinion. And that's what it comes down to. Who can capitalize on the mistake? Topuria is going to be that guy. He's going to be 17-0. And I know he's not the featherweight champ anymore. We can call him the double champ, I feel like.
He's the double champ.
The UFC isn't really doing that anymore. But featherweight, he's beat the 2 featherweight goats. He's about to beat one of the lightweight goats. Come on, man. I don't see anyone stopping Ilia Topuria. Not even, dare I say, Islam Makhachev. I think Topuria could be him too, which I think is what could be next for him. I think Islam could move back down to lightweight. He's mentioned doing that. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, this is a tough fight. Excuse me, tough predicament to be in. Well, if Islam wants to move back down, he better focus on JDM first because that is a monster. But I'm gonna go back to Srikar's point of what Topuria's base actually is. I mean, if you're kind of like a casual MMA fan, you only watch UFC, you don't really look into too many things. You just look at Ilia Topuria, you're like, oh, okay, he's a knockout artist. Bro has hands, he's a striker. That's what he's known for. He had one knockout win in, I believe, 8 or 9 fights coming into the UFC, all by submission. All of his wins were by submission. He's only had one submission win in the UFC, and that was to Bryce Mitchell, I think.
Bryce Mitchell.
It was Bryce Mitchell.
Bryce Mitchell, yeah.
He beat the brakes off of Bryce Mitchell. But if that doesn't go to show how well-rounded he is, he came into the UFC and completely took on a different persona than what he was used to. And in his earlier fights he absolutely destroyed Jai Herbert. And in his earlier fights, you can kind of tell he's kind of raw on the feet, doesn't really have too much of a polished boxing game. He just has extreme power. But as he progressed in his UFC career, you saw you saw his skills sharpening and him becoming more crisp. And the power was still there. He always had crazy power. But he can really take the fight wherever he wants. And it's scary because when he knocks people out, he didn't even try and take it to the ground. He said, I'm just going to use this. I'm just going to use my boxing and I'm going to win. And that's it. When you factor in that he's just as, efficient on the ground, there's no telling what he can or can't do. Not can or can't do. We could tell that he can do anything. I don't know who can beat him in that respect. I think the bigger fighters are what are going to be his problem. That's why, maybe fighting Islam isn't in his best interest. It'll be a great fight, but I think a bigger fighter like Islam would have that advantage. But then you look at Charles. He's the best finisher in UFC history. He literally is the most finishes in UFC history. Mm-hmm. And he's a absolutely amazing submission artist, probably the best jiu-jitsu practitioner in the entire UFC.
Oh, yeah.
But he has power too. I remember Justin Gaethje after that fight. Obviously Gaethje dropped him, and like Srikar said, Charles has a knack of getting dropped pretty much once every fight. It's almost like it makes him better. When he hits his back, it's almost like it gives him a new rejuvenated sense of, okay, I need to let's lock in now. Okay, let's lock in. But that's not something you want to do against Ilia Topuria, a finisher of his caliber. But Charles Oliveira, when he fought Justin Gaethje has a chin on him. And he said getting hit by Charles Oliveira was like biting a battery. It was like he was tasting battery acid. I don't know what that means, or I don't know how that feels. I don't want to know.
I don't want
to know. Because I have a feeling that biting a battery and breaking it or tasting battery acid probably hurts and shocks your whole face. It kind of just, I think what he was saying is that one punch, he was not expecting it to sting that much. And it's almost like debilitating. And Gaethje got rocked by it. I think Topuria, he's really going to have to be crisp in this. He's really going to have to pick his moments, and he can't just rush in. The thing is, that's Charles' game plan. He's just gung-ho from the beginning. He's going to come out full speed, go right ahead. He's not going to let you rest or anything because that's in his best interest. The longer the fight goes, the more Charles Oliveira will tend to fade. Even though he just went to a 5-round decision against Michael Chandler, it's Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler fades greatly when he goes deeper into fights. And that was a 49-46. So Charles showed he can go 5 rounds. Does he want to go 5 rounds? No, he wants to get the fight done within 2.5 or less. Same thing with Topuria. I think that this is going to be, this is not lasting 2 rounds. I think that someone is getting viciously finished. I don't know if it's going to be a submission or a KO. I could actually even see Ilia catching him in a submission. Doing what Islam Makhachev did to him. He'll knock him down, jump on the sub. I just don't know if I can see Charles beating Ilia Topuria at this point in his career. 16-0. Literally, the UFC is almost on his back right now. He's one of the few fighters that is carrying the UFC star power. He's the future. He really is the future. I think Ian Gary should give his name to Ilia Topuria so he could be the future.
Oh man,
that's a different story. But Ilia is just way too polished, man. He has all the makings to be. Honestly, I said this to Srikar before. Dare I say it? If he just keeps doing this, he literally could be the GOAT. We could be watching the GOAT. We could be watching the GOAT form right in front of our eyes. And he's proving it. He's won in every single way that you could imagine. And he's beating legends. And if you want to see or talk about legends and beating legends, go to the John Jones podcast. It actually is pretty popular. It's our most viewed video. So if you want to make that,
yep.
Well, let's set a goal. Make this the most viewed, most liked video in honor of International Fight Week.
Drop a like down below. All our socials are down there. So if you want any news or live updates, Srikar will be at UFC 317, so he'll be tweeting some live updates.
We have boots on the ground in Vegas for International Fight Week.
On the ground.
Should be a banger of a card.
Quickly wrap it up. I think Topuria got it. You guys said I think the odds aren't as telling as how close this is going to be, I think it's perfectly telling of how this fight's going to go. I think the last time Charles was in this big of a hole betting wise was against Islam. Islam was minus 275. I saw that and said, oh my gosh, give me Charles Oliveira. Love him. Didn't do it off of the heart. I didn't bet with my heart. I bet because I genuinely thought that Charles Oliveira was that guy. He still is that guy. But in the fights against Islam, plus 200 plus dog. Against Armand too, he was a plus 200 dog. We both know how those fights went. I love Charles Oliveira. I think he's going to put on a great performance. I really hope that this is fight of the night in terms of finish wise. But yeah, give me El Matador waving the red cape at Du Bronx.
So a clean sweep, 2 and stills for International Fight Week. Arguably the best card of the year so far. Should be a banger. Like Chris said, make sure to follow all our socials down below. We'll be back on Sunday with a post-fight recap, matchmaking the winners from this, and setting the future for the lightweight and flyweight division, because we're going to get some big answers from this card. But that'll do it with Chris Shroyer and Srikar Rajendran. I'm Sam Corcoran. Enjoy the fight. Take care.